as this man was bowing before her. The look of confusion on Seiko's face was evident as she wondered why he was doing such a thing. In an instant, the man suddenly punched Seiko, resembling Paul Phoenix's burning fist move, sending her flying toward the wooden pillar behind her. Upon landing on the ground, Seiko quickly adjusted her position, but when she turned back to face the man, she was utterly shocked to see he had vanished in front of her as smoke scatters around. While she was still bewildered, the man suddenly appeared to her left, prepared to unleash an axe kick. Fortunately, she managed to sense it just in time, allowing her to roll dodge forward, causing the attack to strike only the wooden floor. Nevertheless, the man immediately followed up his axe kick with a sweep kick, prompting Seiko to leap onto all fours to evade the strike. After both of them stood up again, they exchanged a flurry of punches and kicks, blocking and dodging each other's attacks. However, even though Seiko was able to block the man's strikes, it was clear that she was struggling. Every single strike carried immense power, and she also noticed that he was deliberately targeting her vitals. She found herself commenting inwardly about this man's overwhelming power as she continued stepping back and parrying, refusing to give in. After the man's jumping turning kick, Seiko added an admiration that despite everything, the vital targeting moves, their trajectories, were easy to read. While she thought this to herself, she regained her composure and prepared to counter the man. When he attempted to hit her with a straight left, she dodged by stepping slightly inward. She slipped into his body's range and immediately readied both of her hands. As soon as she positioned herself right in front of the man's torso, the look of surprise on his face was apparent, while her expression showed she was locked on. She delivered a lunging punch to the man, but to her shock, she simply passed right through him, as his entire body seemed to turn into smoke. Bewildered, she glanced back in disbelief after phasing through him, and while she was still distracted by surprise, the man suddenly appeared in front of her and instantly struck her with an unorthodox uppercut that connected solidly with her chin, certainly shaking her entire world. The man followed up this strike with a double kidney hit that landed directly on Seiko's body. The combo didn't end there, as a whirlwind-like force formed behind the man's left elbow while he prepared his fist. He shouted the word "Seta" and forcefully delivered an Onii-Chan on steroids to Seiko, launching her backward and causing the wooden pillar behind her to shatter upon impact. The excruciating pain was visible on her face, while the man struck a cocky pose as he waited for her to fall. Afterward, the man brushed his hair with his hand to fix it as he kept his gaze on Seiko. We were then shown Seiko slumped against the shattered wall caused by the impact of her beaten body being hurled into it. She groaned in pain from her injuries, clutching her side as she panted heavily. The mysterious man began approaching her, praising her, and stating he never imagined a warrior existed who could surprise him. When the two faced each other without fighting, Seiko weakly asked if this man was a ninja, the smoke yokai, while he adjusted his gloves and simply stared at her. As a ninja drew near, he immediately stomped on her side, the very spot she was holding, causing her to scream in pain as she tried to push him off. He demanded that she accept her defeat, adding that since they had already traded blows, she should now understand that she couldn't possibly win against him. Even so, Seiko refused to submit, telling him to stop acting like some kind of warrior and pointing out that his ability was a total sham. Just as Seiko was about to add something to her statement, she suddenly attempted to kick the man in the balls, but he reacted instantly and turned that part of his body into smoke. His eyes flared as he called her pig, followed by a kick to her body that sent her flying once more. Seiko's body slammed into the ground with a heavy thud from the attack, drawing the attention of Momo, who was at the lower level of the castle, upon hearing the loud noise it produced. Worried, she asked Vimola about the sound they just heard, to which Vimola, startled, replied that there was a fairy on her head. As they fled from the swarm of smoke ninjas, she wished inwardly for her granny to be okay. Following this, we returned to Seiko's situation, where we were shown that she was now unconscious, her face bloodied from her nose. Smoke began gathering above her, and before long, a ninja's body formed from it and stood directly on top of her, causing her to awaken and scream in pain once again. As she groaned from the agony, a ninja commented on how incredible she was and said that if only she had accepted defeat earlier, she wouldn't have had to suffer like what was happening now. Seiko's ribs began to crack under the pressure as he added that he envied her spirit. He further stated that, from a biological standpoint, it was contradictory not to fear death. He said that the moment one possessed a physical body, they could never escape the act of living. As he tiptoed to apply more weight on a specific part of Seiko's body, he suggested trying an experiment. If he destroyed enough of her body, would he also be able to destroy her conviction? Seiko groaned even more intensely from the extreme pain she was experiencing as Aninra declared his desire to see her beg for mercy, to see her admit defeat, and admit to everything. But unexpectedly for this smoke yokai, a large portion of the wall to their left suddenly exploded, as if someone had demolished it. This caught Aninra's attention, and as he turned to look, he saw an individual furiously demanding why the long hold up, while dragging along a smoke ninja. It turned out to be Jiji in his evil eye form, who had finally lost patience. He angrily demanded how much longer they planned to keep him waiting. As he walked toward them, Aninra simply stared at Evil Eye. Not long after, Evil Eye's attention was drawn to what was happening to Seiko. He stared intently at her groaning in pain while being stepped on by Aninra, his eyes widening at the sight. However, instead of feeling worried, he suddenly burst into loud laughter and mockingly asked Seiko what had happened to her. He couldn't hold back his boisterous laughter as he questioned how she could possibly have been defeated by a loser like Aninra. He even pointed out how hilarious the thought was, that big strong Seiko had been beaten down so badly. Suddenly, Aninra spoke and called out to Evil Eye, informing him that he would also be taking his power. While Aninra was speaking, Evil Eye immediately hurled the ninja he had been dragging straight at him, but it missed, and Aninra transformed into his smoke form, allowing the body to pass right through him. The ninja's body slammed to the ground right after, and Aninra began reforming his solid body. His attention was then caught by something near his feet, noticing that Seiko had vanished from beneath him. He turned sharply to his left in all seriousness and realized why Seiko had disappeared. Evil Eye had swiftly carried her away from him. Evil Eye then gently laid Seiko down on the ground, and while removing his hoodie, he questioned Aninra's earlier statement about taking his powers, mocking him by saying how hilarious he was. He draped his hoodie over Seiko's exposed body afterward, while Aninra continued watching him intently. He began stretching for a moment, and then started walking toward the smoke yokai, with an extraordinary aura now radiating from his body. After a brief stretch, he quickly charged at Aninra, who was giving him respect by bowing as he approached. Evil Eye readied his right fist before reaching the yokai, but when he attempted to punch him, to his utter shock, Aninra's body turned into smoke, causing his fist to pass right through. As a counter, before he could even react, Aninra delivered a vertical axe kick that struck solidly against his face, immediately followed by an elbow to the abdomen. As Evil Eye lost his balance, Aninra grabbed him and executed a grapple throw, slamming him into the floor with such force that the wooden boards beneath them shattered. While Evil Eye's body was still pressed to the ground, Aninra charged in once more and delivered a solid left strike to his kidney, shouting Marlboro as he did. But the combo attack didn't end there. While shouting Red Marl, Aninra kicked Evil Eye to the right, then yelled Mar Minth and launched another kick, this time upward. Following that, he shouted Marl Gold and delivered a shin kick to Evil Eye's neck, then elbowed him again, this time straight to the balls, and didn't stop targeting the same area, adding an uppercut that sent him flying into the air. While Evil Eye was still airborne, Aninra unleashed a relentless barrage of punches directly to his nether regions, repeatedly shouting the word gold with each strike. Every single punch targeted his balls, and after the non-stop assault, Aninra finished by kicking him powerfully in the torso while shouting burst, sending him flying a considerable distance away. When Evil Eye landed on the ground headfirst, Aninra casually adjusted his collar. He then began walking forward arrogantly, remarking that so this is an Evil Eye, commenting further that he was hardly a warrior, all adjusting his gloves. However, Evil Eye caught his attention when he coughed and irritably commented how annoying he was. He then questioned why Aninra was targeting nothing but his nugs, asking if this was supposed to be some kind of nutsack Olympics or something. Because of that, Evil Eye decided that from now on, Ininra's name would be Nug Lover, a statement that clearly didn't sit well with Ininra. Immediately after, Evil Eye once again attempted to deliver a quick punch to the face, but Ininra's body turned to smoke yet again as he commented that his efforts were futile. He then stated that no matter how impressive Evil Eye's physicality, he still couldn't harm Smoke. Just as he was about to add that Evil Eye should accept his defeat, Evil Eye suddenly tried punching him in the face again. Evil Eye began swinging wildly, punching like a madman as he tried to drive the Smoke away, shouting that Ininra was a dirty cheat, calling him Nug Lover, and pointing out that people who cheat are bad. Ininra reformed into his solid body once more and delivered a side uppercut to Evil Eye, sending him flying. After that, he told him to stop calling him Nug Lover and pointed out that he was known as the Red Baron. He brushed off the insult and acknowledged that Evil Eye did have power. However, he declared that he was still stronger, and since Evil Eye was weaker than him, he demanded that he accept defeat. Suddenly, Jiji spoke from within Evil Eye and asked him if he would shut up, to which Evil Eye replied that he was telling him he could beat Ininra. Not long after, Evil Eye agreed and said they could swap, but Jiji had to promise to swap back afterward, while Ininra was visibly confused about what was happening and why he was talking to himself. Following this, Evil Eye and Jiji swapped places, and Jiji now had full control of his own body. As he fired his imaginary pistols at Ininra, Jiji asked him how he was doing and playfully announced that Jiji's in the house, while Ininra questioned if his wish was to perish. Ininra warned him that if he took his attacks in his flesh and blood state, he would die. Jiji agreed and added that that would totally suck, but insisted he still had to try everything he could. He further added, while preparing and readying himself to unleash his special move, that he had been through his fair share of fights as well. Ininra retorted that all of his attacks would be futile, and even Evil Eye himself was nothing compared to him. However, when Jiji unleashed his evil gun, it struck Ininra's entire body solidly, shocking him with how he couldn't avoid it using his smoke body, while Jiji, with serious eyes, commented that it worked. Ininra was flung away after being hit by Jiji's evil gun, and afterward, Jiji shouted as he pointed at him using his gun gestures that it worked, while Ininra was visibly stunned by what had happened. He was so shocked that he ended up asking twice if he had really been hit by it. Jiji immediately readied his evil gun again while asking Evil Eye's reaction to his attack and pointing out how awesome he was, and after saying that, he fired another attack at Ininra. Unfortunately, the smoke yokai managed to dodge the attack and quickly closed the distance between them. Jiji suddenly responded with an okay as if he was talking to someone, and just before Ininra's fist could land, he blocked it with his elbow. Ininra was shocked since he didn't expect Jiji to react, but when he stared at Jiji's face, he realized he had just switched places with Evil Eye, and it was Evil Eye's reflexes and strength that blocked him. As a counter, Evil Eye attempted a turning kick against Ininra, but the same thing happened. His leg just passed through when Ininra shifted into smoke form. After phasing through, Ininra quickly spun his body, and once he had his footing, he landed his own turning kick that sent Evil Eye flying. Evil Eye managed to stop himself from being launched too far due to the impact of the kick and immediately readied his fist to counter. Anticipating another charge, Ininra began transforming his body into smoke again, but unexpectedly, he and Jiji switched places once more, with Jiji already prepared to launch another evil gun. Jiji called out to grab his attention and announced that he was back, then unleashed his special move, which landed solidly on the smoke yokai. Unease showed on Ininra's face as he was utterly confused while being blasted away. As he returned to his solid form, Ininra began questioning how this was even happening. He asked how Jiji was even able to attack his body, while Jiji continued using his gun gestures, teasing him that he got him. Jiji then explained that he had an incredibly awesome teacher named Miss Seiko, and while throwing up 2 peace signs, he added that she was the one who taught him how to use spiral power. After that, we returned to a point in time when Jiji was training with Seiko. She taught him the idea of spintronics. She explained that it's a scientific principle, but for their purposes, they could achieve the same results through spiral training. She told him that the proteins in their bodies are made up of 20 kinds of amino acids called L-form amino acids that rotate to the left. Meanwhile, sugars, and genes rotate to the right. And, she added, their properties change depending on the direction of their rotation. Using a bottle cap, she further explained that when releasing energy, the loosening force is a left rotation. On the other hand, when storing energy, the containing force is a right rotation. Against a corporeal enemy, a left rotating Shuho wave is effective, but it's the opposite against an ethereal enemy. The ethereal body exists in a smoke-like state where energy is loose. In other words, it's a left rotating L form. Therefore, its opposite, the right spinning Shuho wave, would be effective. After that, Jiji told Seiko that right now, it still takes his maximum effort just to fire a Shuho wave, and he pointed out that he's not yet capable of adding rotation into it, to which Seiko agreed and said that's true. She told him to just tuck away the principles in a corner of his brain for now, because in time, he'd be able to make use of them. We then returned to the present, and as Jiji prepared once more to release a Shuho wave, he pointed out to Aninra that his energy was loose. His smoke-like state meant he was in L form, which meant he was weak against a right rotation. Aninra responded that he had no idea what Jiji was rambling about, but just because he could hit him didn't mean he should start thinking he could win. Suddenly, Aninra vanished from his spot, and with incredible speed reappeared in front of him just as Jiji was about to attack, delivering a solid kick to his face that sent him flying. But fortunately, Jiji managed to switch places with Evil Eye once again. Evil Eye stopped himself from being launched, while Aninra took his stance again. He pointed out to him that if he weren't constantly switching forms like that, he wouldn't be able to endure his attacks, meaning, every time he becomes Evil Eye, he's wrapped in spiritual power and his defense becomes stronger. However, he added that in his Evil Eye state, he couldn't fire the evil gun. After realizing this, Aninra immediately charged again and targeted Evil Eye's lower body, and in an instant, he landed a clean hit to the abdomen, causing him to rise into the air, and then quickly followed up with an uppercut to the chin. Aninra started raining punches toward him while provoking Jiji to try and switch places with him. Aninra deduced that if he couldn't use the evil gun, then his attacks wouldn't land. But, he added, if he took his blows in his flesh and blood state, he would die. He encouraged him to just accept defeat and pointed out that there wasn't even the slightest chance he could win against him, adding that he was far weaker than him. However, to Aninra's surprise, Evil Eye managed to touch his body while kicking his face, seemingly causing an aura to appear behind him, which caught his attention and shattered his focus. Suddenly, Evil Eye unleashed a devastating kick that landed squarely on his smoke body, sending him flying to the ground and breaking it from the force of the impact. He was launched several meters away from Evil Eye, and after he managed to stop himself, he was stunned to hear Evil Eye's voice change as he asked him if he wanted to know how he was going to defeat him. We were then shown Evil Eye, or rather, Jiji, in a new state, now fully in control of the Evil Eye state and actively channeling it. And he said that he was going to beat Aninra because he's a genius, using his usual cheeky tone. Jiji once again gave Aninra 2 peace signs afterward, while the smoke yokai wiped his injuries. Jiji explained that now that he was in this state, he could use the power of Evil Eye and fire the evil gun, then followed it up by gesturing as if shooting Aninra with 2 pistols. Aninra then commented, asking if a human and a yokai had fused. Jiji questioned that assumption and laughed, saying he wished he could pull off something that awesome. He informed him that at the moment, he and Evil Eye were switching back and forth at super high speed, which puzzled Aninra. He then pointed out that it was kind of like a light bulb. It flickers at a high speed, so it only looks like it's constantly lit. He said it was a technique the 2 of them worked out so they could have fun playing Momotaro Dentetsu at the same time. Following that, he added that now he was going to whip this smoke yokai's booty big time while preparing to fire another evil gun. Aninra then readied himself and commented that so in the end, he's just switching back and forth, and his body suddenly turned completely into smoke as he pointed out that his essential nature hadn't changed. Smoke from the yokai began to surround Jiji, catching his attention. As he inhaled, he breathed in some of the smoke, and something about it immediately caught his attention. He fell to his knees and started coughing violently after inhaling it. And once he felt something in his chest, he couldn't believe it. Aninra confirmed his reaction and said that he is smoke, and explained that if he breathes him in, he can enter his lungs. Jiji didn't let Ininra's disturbing move stop him and immediately fired the evil gun to disperse the smoke around him. Unfortunately, he continued coughing and was still affected by Ininra, who then pointed out that not all of the smoke was him. He claimed he wasn't doing anything special, just making use of the smoke as a mechanism, and it seemed that by fusing, Jiji had weakened the power of his evil gun, while he was now wheezing and struggling to breathe. Ininra then said that in order to blow all the smoke out of the area, he would need an evil gun like the one he had when he was still in his flesh and blood form. However, he declared he wouldn't allow him to do that. He would rematerialize and explode his body. Jiji began to recall the scene of Ininra stepping on Seiko, and also remembered when she recently told him that it was okay, and that she knew he could do it. He remembered her words, that if he controlled his chi, it wouldn't matter if there was an obstacle in front of him. And because of that, he fired an evil gun at his own body, which blasted Ininra out and away from him. And he remembered the moment he did something similar on the plane ride. Ininra was launched, crashing into several wooden pillars in the process, and only came to a stop once his body slammed into a wall. He then asked aloud what Jiji had just done and if he had just shot himself. But he was immediately cut off when he was shocked to see that Jiji had already appeared in front of him and declared, "Penalty kick time." He covered his nose and mouth with his right hand and pointed out that Ininra wouldn't be able to get in him like this. Even so, Ininra began turning his body into smoke again while commenting that he shouldn't think that was enough to make him better than him. However, unexpectedly for the smoke yokai, Jiji easily stopped him with a quick evil gunshot that landed solidly on his body and halted his transformation, shocking him. Jiji then explained that even though his power was lowered, he could still stop him from dispersing. He added, while grabbing Ininra by the hair and collar, that when he used his evil gun to squeeze him tightly, it seemed like it took him longer to transform into smoke. Evil Eye then began taking over his control, and next, he stated that the woman Ininra had been standing on earlier, Seiko, had told him that she was going to make him family. So he added in a now serious and menacing tone, not to go stepping on her like she's nothing, which caused visible fear and nervousness in Ininra's eyes. After he said that, Evil Eye and Jiji fully switched places, and Evil Eye immediately unleashed a flurry of punches on every part of Ininra's body that shook his world without a doubt. Amid the fury of punches, he delivered an immensely powerful blow that sent Ininra flying out of the castle and into the nearby lake, leaving his appearance utterly battered as he floated there. Jiji was stunned at the sight and commented that Evil Eye really went overboard as he stared at the hole created when Ininra was blown away, and said he also wanted to complain about it. After that, Jiji picked up the beaten Seiko and remarked that if his master had been in top form, she could have insta-killed a guy like him.